Now we're ready to put everything back together. Unfortunately, I took this in time lapse instead of explaining it while I was doing it, so watch me put it back together, and then at the end I will explain how to tension the belts. Balance shaft pulleys have two keyways. One keyway is used for the key on the shaft, and the other keyway is used for the little metal tang in the washer that goes on top of the pulley. Looking at the factory service manual will show how those line up. So on our balance shaft belt, this belt right here, this is the lower balance shaft. It's running off of the large diameter pulley on the crankshaft. This is our tensioner pulley. It's got this hex center with an offset hole, so as we turn it, it can move the pulley in and out to tension this belt. And this one up here, this is the idler, this metal one. So when you tension, there's a few tools. There's an offset wrench, a little skinny offset wrench that you can use on this, and that gives you plenty of clearance that you can use like a box end wrench or something like that on that. So you would have your nut loose, you would turn your offset wrench to give it a little bit of tension, and then tighten up this nut on the top. Another way to do it if you don't have that offset wrench is you can use something like an adjustable wrench and then a socket on a socket wrench, and you can accomplish the same thing. So you don't need that offset wrench to do it. You want to have it tightened so that the balance shaft belt is medium tight. I usually try to aim for 1/4 as tight as the main timing belt. You can see here that I can easily kind of move it, I can easily flex it up and down. As you tension this pulley, when this pulley is loose, you will see that the top run of the belt, where it goes up to the upper balance shaft belt, will kind of have a bow in it from the natural curve of the belt. And then as you tighten it, it starts to straighten out. I like to keep it so that it's kind of just at that straightened out point before getting taut. So like right here, I can kind of slide my finger between the idler and this belt pretty easily. It doesn't take too much force to flex this belt out of the way. And that's the proper tightness. If it's too loose, it'll kind of flop around and slap around in here. If it's too tight, it'll cause these bearings to whine. Because there's no friction drive on this belt, it's got the teeth on both sides of the belt, there's no need for it to be super tight because it's driving from its teeth, as opposed to the timing belt is driving the water pump on the backside from a from a friction interface. Once we have the tightness of this belt set pretty well, the next thing is to adjust this idler. Now the Porsche manual specifies that there should be 1/2 millimeter of clearance between the bottom of the idler and the belt as it goes over this the lower balance shaft. And there should be 0.1 of a millimeter of clearance between the top of this pulley and this belt up here as it goes on the run to the upper balance shaft. Now as a gauge, 1/2 of a millimeter is about 20 thousandths of an inch. A millimeter is about 40 thousandths of an inch. A credit card is just over that. It's like 45-50 thousandths of an inch. So I kind of use a credit card as a gauge. I can put my credit card between that idler and this belt here, and it stays in place. So that's kind of the spacing you want for the lower side of that idler. Now for the top side, 0.1 of a millimeter, that's 4 thousandths of an inch. That's about the thickness of a sheet of paper. That's really quite hard to measure. So the way I do it is I want this idler to spin freely with no drag from those belts. In other words, the belt is not touching the idler. But if I touch the top of the belt here, it just moves the slightest little bit before it touches the pulley. So I can spin it, and then I can, like touch it and make that act as a brake. So there's just a slight amount of play there before that touches that pulley. And that's the proper adjustment for this idler right here. Now for tensioning the timing belt, the belt up here. So again, the back side of this belt rubs against the water pump, and it requires on a friction interface to make the water pump spin. The auto tensioner, this part right here, I set the auto tensioner to its tension. I locked it down. I rotated the engine several times to let the timing belt kind of sit where it wanted on the pulleys, on the water pump, and all of that. And then I loosened the tensioner and I let it push again. But our final tension, so we've got this idler here. It spins, but it is touching the back side of this belt here. So when you push down on this belt, it's pretty taut. It's not quite as taut as like the lowest string on a guitar, but it's almost that. You can almost give it a little flick and almost get like a strum out of it. Same for this one here. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's almost like a guitar sound. The run between the water pump and the cam gear here. If you squeeze these together, like the top belt, you should get to squeeze down to the skid plate here. Now the earlier cars don't have some of them don't have the skid plate. This is the later water pump. It has the skid plate, which is to prevent the teeth from this side of the belt from rubbing against the teeth on that side of the belt. So if I push down, I can get it to touch that skid plate right by this pulley. I can't get it to touch the skid plate up here at the top. I can't push it far enough. It's tight enough that there's not that much flex in that belt. So this is about the right tightness. Again, it's pretty snug. It's about, I don't know, by my estimate, 3 or 4 times tighter than the balance shaft belt.
After everything is all together, you can start the car up by using a timing light triggering off of the number 1 spark plug wire. You can look inside the inspection hole on the camshaft cover, and you should be able to see your timing mark lining up with in that hole. There's actually a little notch on the back plate there, like you can see here. If you see that, then you have set your belts correctly and the car should be running fine.